Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
We are back with Mones, the founder of Fama. Where do we start? What is Fama?
What is Fama?
What is a Fama?
Yeah. Fama first as a term is a Latin term that means fame via reputation. Those people in ancient Rome had such a pristine reputation, they were famous because of it, and so that's where we got the name for the company from.
I like a Kardashian.
I wish I could say it was like a Kardashian. People have these like glorious stories about what they think of like how a company was founded, but I was crashing on my friend's couch in San Francisco. Startup I was at had fallen apart previously, and I was like, what would be a cool name for this thing that I've been ruminating in my head, and bought a domain, did a little Googling, and here we are. I would say, don't put your company name in all caps because everyone thinks it's like a acronym that stands for something, but it's just a term in Latin. So
that is interesting. So for everyone out there that's not familiar with the product, tell everyone what it does, what problems does it solve?
Yeah, sure. So we're in the candidate screening space. So our mindset is basically that you can go from shortlist to finalist. That's one of the biggest challenges and hardest parts, most human parts of hiring. That moment when you're saying, oh, like Jane, she looks like she's got the experience. John, he's got the book of business. Who do we want to hire? In that moment, that's really where we step in, and we think the sort of keys to the puzzle, the answers, if you will, are in who we are online, our digital identity, who we are in image, video, text, as we appear on the internet. And that's where we really source a lot of our insights. So whether it's like helping evaluate your downside risk, is this person going to act hateful or violent towards others? Do they have the traits and competencies that you think are predictive, maybe from a big five perspective of success in a role? That's really where we focus, a lot of executive due diligence too. But really, like, our sources are digital selves.
This is fascinating, and there's certainly some ethical concerns to this. And I want to go back to when you were forming the product there, but it really starts with the core need. Where did you see the green grass, white space, the need for it in the market?
So I didn't know anything about...
You don't come from the people space.
No, I didn't know anything about HR, HR tech in particular. In the world of background screening, I thought like background checks were stored in like a secret
criminal
beneath the
vaults.
Pentagon or some shit like that. Or can I swear on this podcast?
No one cares. No one listens. They don't care. No. Plenty of people do.
Great. So I didn't know anything about the industry at all. I was a software dude, basically. I had done software startups in the media analytics space. I did like a CRM, did a little bit of venture capital stuff, but more or less like my story was basically helping large companies solve tough problems using cloud-based technology. So sounds nerdy and San Francisco-y, but that's what my thing is, dude, and that's what I love to do. Yeah, it's part of who I am and where I've been. I had hired a guy at a previous company, looked great on paper, resume, references checked out, seemed like the right dude. 6 months in, the guy ends up sexually harassing one of our top salespeople. Horrible experience for this woman, for the company, had cataclysmic effects on our business. After the fact,
reputation, the people like that, they only judge you by your last item in the news.
I was like in my early 20s. I had hired both people. And so I was in a position where I was like, dude, I can't believe this happened. I felt partially responsible for it.
What didn't you do? It's heavy.
What did we miss?
So you felt personally responsible to some extent?
I knew that I wasn't the one who did the deed, but when you set up the scenario, you put somebody in that position, how could you not feel that way? And so after the fact, we see this guy's social media, all this pejorative, misogynistic stuff about women that, like, had we seen it, we never would have hired this guy, brought him on board. And then years pass, I'm going through different phases of my startup career, and just happened to be in a moment where previous company I was at ran out of money, put the locks on the doors. I had like a car payment, a rent payment, and that was it. And I was like, oh, if this is as bad as it's going to get, I might as well go out and try and do the thing I've been trying to do. So yeah, I came at this problem simply from having experienced it as a practitioner with no exposure whatsoever to the world of tech.
It's interesting too. I call you a serial entrepreneur, but you've gone down the road, you've done it a few times. And there's a benefit to coming into an area with no preconceived notions.
Sure.
So for anyone out there, what was that benefit for you when you started to do your due diligence and discovery and exploratory before fully building out the product? Yeah,
it was cool. Like I appreciate the compliment. I don't know if I'd call myself a serial entrepreneur. I do serial and I am an entrepreneur, but that's about where it stops. So
save the dad jokes for this side over here.
Yeah, I am a dad too. But anyway, the short story is
so you're one dad joke a day.
Okay, I used it. Shit. All right. In any event, like I raised money, our first $150K check on a PowerPoint presentation. So I had no product, no users, no customers. Now I don't know if that would fly in today's day and age, but in 2015, it was how we got going.
Right.
And I had spoken to people. I just said, hey, look, when you're hiring, do you ever use social media? Do you ever use online data? Has it ever factored into a hiring decision that you made? And I was doing a lot of research too. Career Builder put out this survey every year that talked a little bit about how online social media was used in hiring. And you started to see the steady progression where, like, in 2015, 44% of companies surveyed by Career Builder had some form of social media usage as part of their hiring process. Fast forward many years later, that number is now like 85%, right? So I happen to just see some signal, but also as an entrepreneur, you just have to know that what you're willing to risk, how long you're willing to risk it, and just put yourself in a position where, like you said, you don't know what you need to do, and so you're willing to try whatever, where now, after I've been through it, you know how hard it is. And doing it again, you can see why second-time entrepreneurs tend to fail, because it's not as easy.
So let's talk about the product itself there. What are the data points that you're using to make assessments on someone's social media content, whether it's a liability or not, without having bias built into that? It's a big, like when I was doing my research, I'm like, the fuck are they using it to say if someone's good or bad? Like, what if I post something on my Instagram of me doing something in private with not private, but on my personal Instagram? Sure. What if you could say, oh, that must infer that Adam likes to do drugs? Yeah. Like, how do you, why would they think that, Ben?
Stop stomping on my foot under the table. No, what I'll say to that is, look, without a doubt, right? And there's a history in this country, other countries around the world, of using data, stolen elections in the United States recently, right? And those were things that, like, happened because of I'm actually stolen elections. You should edit that out. Literally, Russia trying to steal the election, right, through social media manipulation, right? I'm not going to open that other can of worms. Good. So, the mindset is basically like, how do you fuel existing decisions that people are making about folks that they're hiring? Today, assessment's a big piece of how people hire, right? Big 5 traits,
skill
competencies. Right? People want to know exactly, again, is this person have the sorts of traits and competencies that have historically led to high performance, right? Similarly, they go through interviews. How does this person act towards other people? Do they say something racist in a job interview? Do they normalize an aberrant point of view? Are they vouching and evangelizing legal drug use, right? Those are the sorts of things that, like, we were looking at, okay, what are people doing in the analog environment today? What are the things that they're already doing as part of their existing workflow that need to be tuned for the modern workforce, right? So basically our position is 50% of the workforce today is Gen Z and Millennial. It's going to be 75% by 2030. These are digital natives, right? These are people that have grown up online as much as they have.
They live their life online.
But to your point, that means we don't score. We don't give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We don't give you a yes or a no. We don't tell you who's a good person, who's a bad person. But on the risk management side, you can say, hey, look, I want to know if this person has acted hateful, violent towards other people. If they treat people differently because of what they look like, they troll people online, those are proxies that people will use to answer that big question. How's this person going to act around customers? How are they going to act around fellow employees? It's much more of analyzing and identifying traits that companies already care about. And you can use, believe it or not, text-based psycholinguistic analysis to generate a complete psychographic profile on a person based on their online language.
But it's so interesting too. Let's just say, I'm going to make up a hypothetical here. Say I'm an accomplished professional.
Yes.
But in my off time, I'm into S&M dominatrix role play, and I'm not anything's wrong with it. And I share that on my Instagram, and it's private to my followers. But somehow you could access this data and see it and make inferences. And I'm just using that as an example. Say that is flagged as some kind of deviant behavior. Like, where's the ethical line of saying who's to determine? Listen, hate is hate. I think there's some common. We could all say this is hate. This is
anti-Semitism, homophobia,
right. There's
misogyny.
Right.
Sure.
But where's the line, and who's making that judgment call? What is that data based on?
First, private information alone is never part of what we do or how we do it.
Where's the data come from?
It's all publicly available information that exists on the internet.
So it's on your public Facebook page.
People sign a consent form to do it, just like a background check. So it's the same sort of thing. And we are looking for the person. Like, look, I'm similar to you. While I'm not a S&M dominatrix guy, I make dirty jokes with my friends sometimes. I say stuff to my friends that I wouldn't say to my wife, that I wouldn't say to the people that work at Fama. There are parts of our lives that are private and private for a reason, and should stay that way, and I'm not saying whatsoever that should change. However, when you are acting in a public fashion and normalizing and codifying a point of view that is intolerant, that is hateful, or if you're a senior executive at, I'll just pick Higher Road since it's on that notebook right there, and you've got a public profile and you're talking about S&M dominatrix and all this sort of stuff, investors, customers of Higher Road might be like, I don't know if I want to back this dude, or I don't know if I want to buy from this company. And that is stakeholder management, I think, that companies have to do to make sure that the people that rep them reflect their values.
So what are publicly, like if I'm going through the job process and the company's very open, so we're going to use this tool, it's going to take a look at your social, am I opting into what social media they could look at?
You're basically just saying, hey, I sign off on a public check of my web presence, who I am on social
web
media,
presence.
Google, that sort of thing. With senior executives, we look at like litigation you've been involved in,
Of course,
offline news,
let's do diligence
sanctions.
element to this.
Totally. Yeah.
So there's different levels. And would a company use this for more senior level, or would they use it for their entire organization?
We work with food processing companies that use us for frontline workers. We work with big hospitals that use us for every employee. We work at search firms that use us just for the executives that they place.
Fascinating. So what are some of those key, without giving away the keys to the kingdom, what are some of those key sites, tools? How do we get into it?
Yeah.
How's the sauce made as far as analyzing?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure it's a lot of advanced ALM and machine learning and other.
Yeah, we operate in the world of like large, unstructured data sets about people, right? So there's three big problems we have to solve. One, how do we find the right person online just using a resume, right? How do you solve the John Doe problem? So we've built automation that's like, how do I find somebody with a common name in a sea of common names in a big city who worked at a big
triangulating some data
company.
Points and other points.
So we have a bunch of
jobs where they work.
Exactly. And then looking at some NLP on web pages to find data points that were provided to us, find that overlap. So big chunk of text there. Two is the extraction of the information. So we have API relationships with social media companies. We have scrapers, spiders, all these different things that we've built on the other side of it to grab and extract as much data as we can. But then it's really content characterization or content classification that we do, where essentially we're trying to identify in a piece of text, in a TikTok video, in an image, is there a swastika there? Is there somebody saying, I'm going to kill my boss? Or are they saying, me and my boss are going to kill it on a project this weekend?
Right, because there's nuance and subtlety to messaging that could get.
So we used to do it entirely manually. So we used to do this with, I tried Mechanical Turk, we did offshore, and then we got to a point where we were like, you know what? We can actually use all the human labeled data that we've created and train an algorithm on how to replicate those outputs from a human perspective. And then the third piece is like building integrations and touch points into the existing customer experience through ATSs, through background screening firms, so that this data is readily accessible.
The podcast would like to thank HireRoad for supporting this series of episodes recorded live at HR Tech in Las Vegas this September. HireRoad is a leading global provider of HR software driven by People Insight, our best-in-class people analytics solution. People Insight by HireRoad delivers implementation in under 1 week. It's a suite of intuitive dashboard visualizations to make sense of your disparate HR data and a team of analysts to support you every step of the way. They provide a transparent, cost-effective approach to meet companies where they are at in their people and data journey.
And for more info, please visit hireroad.com/pause, P-O-Z. Thanks.
So as you were building this out, early stage, what was maybe an early hypothesis that was proven wrong?
We thought originally that this was going to be a referencing network, actually. So we had envisioned Fama as a paid reference network that you would essentially because what we're trying to do is get a read on who somebody is from a quality perspective. And so we had this initial idea that people would opt in and let people provide references on them, find a way to get paid for it, own their own data, two-sided marketplace type thing. That just never worked. That was never, and also weirdly illegal too. You can't do a lot of that referencing without a person's consent and all that.
So a lot of opt-in.
Yeah, a lot of opt-in stuff. That was one early one that we disproved pretty quick. Interestingly too, we used to flag for alcohol at Fama in the first iteration of the product. We used to actually flag extreme abuse of alcohol and that sort of stuff.
That's fair.
But then we started seeing it everywhere across the board, meaning that every single person who we were screening, with few exceptions, had some degree that were public, had some degree of alcohol in their profile. So we've changed the flags over time. We don't do alcohol screening anymore. So that's a
And what about you as a people leader? Was that something that you've always had in your blood, or did you have to learn to become a good people leader?
I had managed people before, but it's nothing like running a company or setting the tone and leading an organization. So I've evolved tremendously, I would say, as a leader. One of my big developments was really increasing transparency. And I don't mean radical transparency where you just give people dickhead feedback in the moment. That's not what I'm talking about. Running a startup, there were many times over the years where we had 3 months of runway in the bank. Maybe there was a period where we actually had negative working capital as a company. And as a CEO, you don't want to scare people away. So you want to try to keep up in a front, right? Of don't worry, like the adults will handle it. Don't worry, you guys just keep working and doing your thing. But
Keep them in the dark. No one knows.
exactly. And that was how I used to run the company. And like it just didn't create job security, and it impacted culture in a negative way. So we made a big shift 2 years ago to just go like board slides to every employee, cash, revenue, sales, marketing, all the
We're
key
all on the
metrics
same
we
page.
track.
We're all on the same page.
And when you do that, people know what page they're on.
And they trust you. They feel like they know that you're not hiding anything, or they have more confidence that you're not hiding anything. But was there any downside of that? Listen, people who are trepidatious, they're like, oh shit, I only get 3 months left to runway. I got to start looking for a new job. Or there are ones like, you know what? I believe in this product. I believe in the management team here, and we're going to pull out of this.
It puts the employee in the perspective of answering that very question for themselves. And as an employer, you can't control that answer one way or another. So it's been immensely positive for us because people feel like they're being treated like owners. They know the game that they're in. All the cards are up on top of the table. They know what needs to happen to get to that next tranche of growth, that next milestone. So yeah, it actually increased job security. Retention went up. When we started doing that, we saw a 3x of employee referrals for open JDs when we really changed, which is, you can't really measure culture with ENPS or all these other things. So I look at, if people are telling their friends, yo, this shit is cool, you got to come work here, that's culture.
That is, it's as simple as that, right?
Right. You don't have to make it too complicated.
If people feel valued in an organization, they have a clear career path, they're happy, there's some level of camaraderie, which maybe some companies you don't need any camaraderie, some you do need a lot, depending on the product and the mixer. So when you walk this conference here, what are some of those observations you're making? Maybe some tech that you're like, oh, that's pretty cool out there. Not just trying to sell, but observing and learning.
Sure.
What's standing out to you?
Yeah, I think we're in this realm of the AI versus the AI right now. You know,
let's get into that.
I think that there's all these like AI companies out here. It started with, not to name company names, but it started with AI resume filtering, right? Let's look at the resume. Let's use AI to see if this person fits the job description, right? Whether they match or not. Now you have AI resume creators for candidates, right? So now you've got AI resume filtering with AI created resumes that are now talking to each other. Now you have
each other out.
Chatbots from conversational ATSs that are interviewing candidates, meeting them where they're at, talking to chatbots created for candidates to talk to those. We're in this really interesting moment where I think suddenly practitioners are going to start realizing that everybody looks like equivalently qualified for a role, because the old way of candidate screening is out the door because it's freaking AI versus AI. And no matter who says, oh, well, we have a filter for the AI or we have a filter for that, it's like a teenager trying to sneak out. No matter what locks you put on the door or cameras you put up,
they're gonna find the way out.
Kids are going to find their way out.
So it's so interesting. So I had this conversation with a founder who was walking through a product demo with me a couple of weeks ago, not on a podcast. We had the same conversation. So the real question is, now we've gotten to this point of AI canceling out AI. We have AI assisted interviews where people have a second screen listening and answering questions. It's bullshit.
Totally.
So what is going to be that differentiator when it comes down to the interview process? We're getting into it, and I think it's the real, actual human. I think it's forcing us to go back to where it all started with human interviews.
100%.
Right? Okay, your resume got you in the door. You're using the tech, but it's really hard. I don't care. There's a lot of tech out there for live interviews, but it's hard to fake the live interview.
I'm sure I don't know how old you are, but spot check, you probably printed out your resume like I did at Kinko's on the nice paper, took it to the job interview in the folder,
I remember that.
You showed up.
I found some of the old folders, by the way. You ever clean your house and you're like, and you see the last job on that shit, this is old.
Yeah, shit, that was the old me.
Oh, God, that's 2006, jeez.
I've been there. But no, I think we're at a moment where you're spot on, and I don't know if it's a return to the old way as much as fueling human expertise and potential and accelerating pattern recognition, where you can bring a user to what I call like the precipice of action so that they can make a more informed decision based on data points that AI can help create and collate in ways that it hadn't before, but organizing the thinking to help make that human decision. Because I think you're right. Now it's going to go back to the practitioner where, okay, someone got all this tech to maybe make it easier to get in the door, but now it's a job of the VP of TA and their team and hiring managers too to cut through the BS and figure out who's a fit, who's not.
What tech out there is getting you excited, would you say? Oh, man. You don't have to name the company, but what were they trying? What were they solving for you? I wish I thought of that.
There's some really interesting like voice frequency stuff that's out there, like frequency AI to detect whether or not someone is being authentic or truthful.
Like a lie detector.
Which sounds like a fucking lie
I feel like
detector.
we've had that for a while.
Dude, lie detectors were the first they used in the 70s, make people take lie detector tests when they applied for jobs at like banks and stuff. So
Yeah.
it seems like we're like drifting in a strange way in that regard. But beyond that, the company Sense has a way bigger booth this year. Looks like some booths have.
God, they're doing well.
Yeah, they seem like they're doing fine.
They're using their funding.
Throwing crazy booths out there, and also some booths are like way smaller than they were last year.
Maybe they're wising up. They need the biggest booth. Where to spend. What's your biggest challenge right now as a CEO of getting your product to market and awareness? What's that challenge for you?
It takes a long time to figure out like when you put a dollar in, when you get it out on the other side. So we're going through a lot of the marketing mechanics and the funnel, understanding what types of spend are accretive to our growth, which are not, looking at things like CAC payback. We're at the point we're about to raise a Series C. So I'm
Congrats on that.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. Congratulations when it's done. But
Congrats on getting to B.
Yeah. We're through the B for sure. But just we're now at the spot where you talk to these investors and they're like, oh, cool, good story. Send me the spreadsheet. And so it's like making sure that the business is tuned from a model perspective to reflect the growth that we think is coming. So it's a lot of living in Excel land that I'm doing right now. So
what's keeping you up at night as a CEO?
Right now is just pacing and speed and controlling what I can't control, honestly. Like a trite answer, but honestly, dude, I'm having a really good time right now. Like you go through peaks and valleys being a CEO, founder of a early stage company, smaller business, and we've just been having a great time. Our business is like up and to the right in a lot of ways. We managed to grow through a really difficult period. We went from 54,000 checks in Q2 of 23 to 95,000 in Q2 of this year. So so we're good, man. I got 2 healthy boys.
Nice.
Chilling.
How do you balance it all? How do you balance growing the business, being a family man, being a dad?
I think I'm doing an okay job. It's just like one of these things where I'm as a younger guy, like being a CEO, I have a lot of older peers and folks who I work with who've been like, it goes by so quick. You should really enjoy every moment. And as a younger guy, I was like, yeah, whatever. I've been lucky to have that sort of reinforced and pounded into me, so to speak. So for me, it's just like clear lines of where I spend my time, what I do when I'm at home. When I'm at work, I'm completely locked in. I sit down at 8, pretty much stand up at 5, take a 30-minute break for lunch. But when I get home, I'm not emailing.
Good.
I'm not going on my phone. I'm with my kids. I'm spending time.
Being present.
I'm just trying to be there in the moment. Everything we do, from yoga to exercise to, of course, drugs and alcohol, everyone's just trying to be in the moment and just block it all out for a second. And if you can find a way to get to that harmony, like, that's nirvana. That's where it's at.
I love it, man. And Ben, last but not least, you've had a pretty successful career journey, but everyone defines success in their own way, in their own right. Ben, how do you define success?
I think you can't, and this is probably an answer that most people won't get, but you, as a guy who didn't grow up with money, like money is a big part of it. You have to have some degree of being able to take care of yourself and your family, and there's like a security there, and as a father it just feels different where you're able to catch, clean, cook, and serve the food, you know what I mean? So that's one piece of it, but I would say
I like that one.
Outside of the money, every day I'm excited to go in. I have not had the Sunday scaries. I don't go to sleep at night worried about Monday.
That's all about, man.
I'm just happy and fulfilled in what I do.
Awesome.
So
Ben,
success.
this is a good chat. Everyone to check out Fama. Where else could they connect? Where could they learn more?
Check us out on LinkedIn if you're, I don't know if this is going to be live or later, but fama.io. We're at the booth 4926. Holler at us.
And you can also check out, they have a couple of reports out there, how to understand candidate quality from an applicant's web presence. They have a report on that, or a case study. And also the state of misconduct at work in 2023. That is a fun weekend read, everybody. We're going to link those shows up in the comments. Ben, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate you, man.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the Podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.